I didn't know what I was gonna wear. I know it's gonna be humid.
We're gonna do the
Is Dominique shopping here?
when you sew, which is good. A year ago. And so we took one of the rooms and transformed it into her
Closet. Nice.
so she's got loads.
Yeah,
She's just, you should come see it.
I just let you know.
That's what I need. I will walk in packed up here.
It's a nice vision for her. A couple weekends ago, she had me.
I mean, what you got? You got 10 kids?
I feel like we were just.
I went to the
So the Jesuits used to live there, and so they put up some walls and made sure.
You're in the Heights, I could. David in a mansion, man.
Oh yeah. $1 million.
Actually, I think he actually applied to work at the county.
The guy that wrote it?
No, the guy, the David.
Oh, no way. No, well, he working at the county, but
I don't think he's working there, but I think somebody said, I think he applied.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a finance.
Never know about people.
He didn't say nothing to us.
Governor, good morning. How you doing, sir? How you doing?
I'll go. Should we? How are you? Oh, you guys look so nice with your yellow.
We ready? Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We began this biennium in the best fiscal position in our state's 175 years of statehood, with a record budget surplus of nearly $7 billion, the lowest unemployment rate in our state's history, historically high labor force participation, and the highest number of people employed ever. And I proposed a budget that reflected that reflected our historic opportunity and responsibility to invest in the needs that were long neglected and are holding our state back. My budget invested in long-term solutions to address Wisconsin's workforce challenges. In many ways, Republicans in the legislature failed to meet the moment, sending my budget back to my desk absent critical investments in key areas that they know and publicly acknowledge are essential to the success of our state. Despite the benefit of the largest surplus in state's history, Republicans rejected much of my workforce plan, all without providing any real justification, any kind of substantive debate, or any meaningful alternative of their own. Guess what? And we are seeing the consequences of that in action already. Child care providers announcing closure across our state. UW-Oshkosh announcing a projected structural deficit of $18 million, requiring furloughs and layoffs. This is a reality facing our state. With already historically low unemployment and high workforce participation in a shrinking labor pool, Wisconsin's small businesses, farmers, producers, hospitals and healthcare sectors, schools, and other critical employers and industries continue to face significant generational challenges filling available jobs. And while I appreciate that our budget invested about $500 million to expand access to housing statewide, the fact remains that Republicans have offered no real comprehensive plan to address our state's workforce challenges to date. Truly addressing these long-standing challenges must include efforts to ensure workers who are already working and are part of the workforce can remain in the workforce. They must include targeted investments to bolster key industries and sectors facing significant challenges. And they must include initiatives to ensure Wisconsin can be competitive in retaining and recruiting talented workforce. So today, I'm calling on the legislature to finish their work on the 2023-25 biennial budget and pass a comprehensive plan to address our state's chronic workforce challenges. And thanks to strategic line item vetoes in the budget, I've ensured ample state resources, about $4 billion. They are readily available for the legislature to do the right thing. And I'm asking them to start with child care. People joining and staying in our workforce depend upon having care for their kids. It's pretty simple. It's really not rocket science. Over the last month, I visited about 12 child care centers, boys and girls clubs, YMCAs across the state, from Portage to Menasha, Luxembourg to Menominee. Everywhere I go, child care is one of the single greatest factors impacting our workforce. Without investments to stabilize the child care industry, many providers won't survive. And in fact, one provider told me we should call this survival grants. They're going to shut their doors for good, and some already are. In a state with historically low unemployment and historically high workforce participation, we simply can't afford to lose more workers. Recent report by the Century Foundation estimates if the legislature fails to address the looming child care crisis, we'll see about $500 million in economic impacts across the state between parents leaving the workforce and reduced employer productivity. Over 2,000 child care programs could close their doors. We could lose over 4,800 child care jobs, and over 87,000 kids would be left without care. Think about that. That's completely catastrophic, but preventable scenario for our kids, our families, the workforce, and employers that would have cascading effects across Wisconsin's economy. So I'm calling the legislature to invest more than $365 million in child care support statewide. That includes investments in child care counts, a program that we already know is successful and helped more than 4,300 child care providers keep their doors open, ensuring the employment of 22,000 child care providers and allowing providers to continue to provide high quality care to more than 113,000 kids. It also includes $22 million for the Partner Up program, a critical partnership helping employers find child care slots for employees that have already helped secure slots for 1,200 kids. Child care is an area we cannot afford to fall even further behind, or we will continue to fail to retain and recruit talented workers. Wisconsin will not be able to overcome our chronic workforce challenges if we can't be competitive with other states in the fight for workers, including our own homegrown talent. So I'm also proposing another initiative we know has broad bipartisan support that will help ensure that we can compete, especially against neighboring states. According to a Marquette poll, 73% of Wisconsin voters, including 62% of the Republicans, support requiring businesses to provide paid leave for new parents. So I'm again asking the legislature to expand paid family leave. My comprehensive workforce plan will ensure all public and private employees have 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave, allowing us to at least be competitive with employers in other states. I'm again proposing to expand eligibility to cover more circumstances so that workers can respond and put their family's needs first without having to leave the workforce. Additionally, my comprehensive workforce plan acknowledges that our higher education institutions are economic drivers. We know that. They're the centerpiece of our communities, and they also help educate, train, retain, and recruit talented workers. So I'm proposing to invest more than $120 million into higher education, including $66 million investment in our UW system, more than $40 million for our technical college system, and key investments in Wisconsin Grants Program that helps higher education be more affordable and accessible for those who choose to pursue it. And finally, my workforce plan also recognizes that some of our workforce sectors have struggled for many years. So my workforce plan makes targeted investments in high-need areas of our workforce, especially our healthcare and education workforces, with a $100 million investment to continue the successful Workforce Innovation Grant Program, nearly $60 million to address healthcare workforce shortage solutions, and $16 million to support our education workforce, including funding for Grow Your Own initiatives and incentives for student teachers. All told, I'm proposing that we use just a fraction of our state's readily available $4 billion surplus, a little over $1 billion, to make the necessary substantial investments to address our state's chronic workforce challenges. Now, I would bet there's some folks out there who will ask why this special session will be any different. Republicans have gavelled in and gavelled out of my special sessions before. Well, here's why. Because at the end of the day, I know that Republicans do not want to be responsible for farmers, hospitals, schools, and other businesses in their district not being able to find workers because parents can't find care for their kids. They do not want to be responsible for the campuses that support local communities and drive local economies, laying off hundreds of people. They don't want to be responsible for helping create an economic calamity. These challenges that have plagued our state for generations will continue holding our families, our economy, and our state back if Republicans in the legislature don't take seriously this second chance. There will not be bipartisan responsibility for inaction. The consequences are theirs. So let's work together in the coming weeks so that we can bolster our state's workforce, maintain our economic momentum, and most importantly, do the right thing for Wisconsin. So thank you, and now I'd like to turn things over to Department of Workforce Development Secretary Amy Pahacek. Amy, it's all yours.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the introduction, Governor Evers. My name is Amy Pahacek, and I am the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. And I am happy to be here today to highlight the great work that is going on in our state to support healthcare, childcare, and the education workforce. As you just heard, DWD and the entire Evers administration have demonstrated our strong commitment to advancing the state's workforce. Wisconsin's economic strength, as evidenced through our record low unemployment rates, record high job numbers, and record number of participants in our apprenticeship programs, proves these investments are working. And we won't stop here. We're continually identifying new ways to serve job seekers, workers, and employers. Many of you have already heard me speak about the demographic challenges impacting our workforce that have been decades in the making. Low birth rates for several generations, baby boomers retiring, and net zero to negative in-migration to our state over the past decade now means there are more jobs than actual workers to fill them. The worker quantity challenge is not only impacting Wisconsin, but also the entire Midwest, the nation, and has global implications as well. So these challenges, coupled with the gradual rise of employment barriers such as lack of access to childcare, affordable housing, transportation, and mental health care, are only exacerbating the worker shortage. If Wisconsin wants to remain economically competitive, we need to continue our innovative programs to support our workforce by removing barriers and advancing their families, our communities, and Wisconsin businesses. Governor Evers' investment of more than $158 million into the Workforce Solutions Initiative is one way that we've been addressing these challenges. This initiative has been supporting our workforce by providing expanded access to childcare, affordable housing, transportation, paid in-demand career training, and other wraparound services. And this innovative program has helped thousands and thousands of people in our state re-enter the workforce over the past year. The Workforce Solutions Initiative has been especially important for some of our most in-demand industries: healthcare, education, and childcare. Every day, healthcare, education, and childcare staff work hard to serve the people of our state. They are truly the workforce behind the workforce. And for this reason, we've been investing in training solutions to develop more teachers, nurses, and childcare workers through educational reimbursements, apprenticeships, and sector-specific recruitments to upskill underutilized segments of our workforce. The governor's budget included additional funding to continue to invest in these critical programs with proven results that are helping Wisconsin thrive. And we need to continue these programs. Another critical aspect to remaining competitive is paid family leave, as the governor indicated. We need parents and workers with families to join and stay in our workforce. Paid leave is critical in not only retaining Wisconsin workers, but it is essential for our ability to recruit new talent to our state. The governor's proposed family and medical leave program would provide 12 weeks of leave for public and most private sector employers, and these proposals would have been jump-started with surplus funds and maintained through employee payroll contributions with employer participation as well. This was a common sense program supported by 73% of Wisconsin voters, including 62% of Republicans. 11 states have already passed paid family and medical leave benefits, and it should come as no surprise that these states are some of the most economically competitive states in our nation. And while training investments and paid family leave would go a long way to bolster our workforce, we also need to support students who are our next generation of workers. We know that when Wisconsin high school graduates go to college, the majority, which is around 75%, stay in state. Therefore, investing in higher education in Wisconsin is not only investing in our children, it is investing in our economic future. This talent pipeline will help solve the workforce shortage faced by employers. And this is done by investing in higher education today, which means in tomorrow we are now investing in our educators, our doctors, our engineers, our business owners, and our counselors. So we are thankful for the leadership of Governor Evers as we develop the future of our workforce, but without continued funding to support these programs, we will lose the momentum of our state's record-breaking workforce performance. And that's why the governor has proposed a comprehensive plan to address our workforce challenges by investing in locally driven, innovative solutions, ensuring childcare is more affordable and accessible, creating a paid family leave program, and supporting our higher education institutions, which are the key pipelines for our workforce. Thank you. And it is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium Senator LaTanya Johnson.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone for being here on such a beautiful sunny day. I feel like the sun is only beaming on me. So over the last decade, our state has suffered a loss of 106,000 people under the age of 20 fleeing our state. If we don't enhance our efforts to attract and retain young individuals, the projected labor shortage could further be exacerbated by the end of the decade. And by 2030, a study by the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh found that our working age population will shrink by approximately an additional 130,000 individuals. For a state that's already facing a worker shortage, this information should be a call to action. Not just one of immediate concern, but an issue that deserves a long-term sustainable strategy as well as investment. We aren't going to break out of this continuous cycle of losing more working age talent without helping our businesses and our state attract and retain new families and those of childbearing age, who not only want to start a family here in Wisconsin, but who also want to grow their families here in Wisconsin. However, this isn't going to happen unless we enact more pro-family policies that are specifically designed to help us accomplish those goals. And no one will do this by passing and enacting policies like paid family leave. Pro-family policies like paid family leave aren't just policies to benefit our working families, but they are also policies to benefit our employers and their businesses. As so many of us heard during our tour around the state for joint finance, businesses coming out along with parents asking for things like child care and paid family leave, because they understand that that is the key to them being able to not only attract talent, but also retain talent. Benefits like paid family leave can help our small businesses stay competitive in recruitment with other larger corporations that already offer paid family leave, and businesses offering paid family leave have been proven to witness higher employee retention rates, leading to reduced turnover cost. Our governor knows this. That's why beginning in 2025, Governor Evers planned to provide up to 12 weeks of paid family medical leave, funded by a small portion of our surplus, just $243 million of our state's $7 billion surplus. After the first year, both employers would contribute to the program, similar to the way that unemployment insurance works. This program would be self-sustaining by the year 2026. So there is literally no good reason to not include this proposal, especially since we heard that a 2022 Marquette University law poll showed that 73% of Wisconsinites are in favor of paid family leave for new parents. All of us are one phone call away from life-altering circumstances, whether that be having to take care of an aging parent, the birth of a child, having to take care of a sick family member. Not many of us could afford to take on these challenges at the expense of losing our income. Paid family medical leave is about more than offering a simple benefit. It's about having the opportunity and the peace of mind to take care of our families and ourselves when necessary. Now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Representative Joyers.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you to Tiny Green Trees for having us here today. My name's State Representative Alex Joyers, and I want to say, for far too long, we have accepted that quality, affordable childcare is out of reach for working Wisconsin families, but that's no longer acceptable. Since I was sworn in, access to childcare has been the #1 issue I hear about from Wisconsinites. As was mentioned, childcare counts has kept our early education industry just far enough away from the cliff. And since its inception, over 100,000 Wisconsin kids have benefited from access to quality childcare, keeping providers afloat and families engaged in Wisconsin's economy. Due to Governor Evers' leadership, closures across the state have been averted for the moment, but the legislature can no longer afford to ignore the child care crisis. The gaps in child care and early education have only grown over the years, reaching a breaking point during the pandemic. Extending these programs is the least we can do for our communities. Just recently, I had a constituent reach out to me and say, as a parent of a 1-year-old, she has had a very difficult time finding childcare in her area. She told me the financial strain makes her consider whether it makes more fiscal sense for her to leave her job to stay home and care for her child. As a parent of a young child myself, I know that this is a consideration families across Wisconsin are thinking about daily, as over half of our state is in a childcare desert. It should be clear that any conversation about bolstering our workforce needs to begin with childcare. Parents should have every opportunity to find financial stability in our state, but they cannot go to a job if they don't have childcare. We know that the more consistency and stability kids have, the more likely they are able to succeed in the future. And studies show for every dollar invested in early education programming can yield returns of up to $16 in graduation rates, economic development, and personal income. At every stage of life, we should be promoting opportunities for our children to thrive, whether that's childcare, schools, or the UW system. We should be making those investments now to create our next generation of leaders. As important as it is to invest in our kids at the earliest stages of their life, it is also critical to ensure that we are supporting our future graduates in their ability to join our workforce of tomorrow by investing in our institutions today. If we want to encourage families to come to Wisconsin and stay in Wisconsin, we have to take up these items, and it's critical that we do it now. And I'll go further to say the most responsible thing that we can do is invest in our kids and their future. So let's do it now. And I'll pass it back to Governor Evers.
Well, my thanks too to Tiny Green Trees for allowing us to be here today, and really important day, really important for us to focus on our priorities, and we'll be glad to answer any questions anyone might have.
Governor, one thing you've been say is that funding child care is an individual or family level decision, that it should not be on the government to subsidize child care for people. What is your response to that?
Well, if we don't provide some help to the child care industry, and I'm convinced of this, that it is not something that's made up, because I've spent a lot of time in child care institutions for the last 4 years, and they will close. They will not be able to afford to provide the services that are needed. And in fact, as I mentioned before, one recent one said just flat out, if we don't get help, we're closed. This is survival time for a child care industry in Wisconsin.
Governor, if they close, what do parents do? And even if they don't close, what do parents do? This child care facility where we are, it costs $1,900 for an infant.
Right.
What do parents do?
Well, they need to call their representatives. Obviously the people behind me that work hard in the legislature are in a good position to advocate, but people in Wisconsin are in the most important position to advocate, and they need to advocate, frankly, with their Republican legislators. This is something I know is universally accepted and supported by every Democrat that has been elected to office in the state of Wisconsin. So, and that's why I've spent a lot of time going to child care places that are represented by Republicans, and they ask me what to do, and I say, get your Republican legislature into your business, have them see what you do, and encourage them to change their mind. This is a really critically important time for us to, in the last budget we did agree on several things. We didn't agree on a lot of things, but this is an opportunity to take that next step.
Governor, you sent a letter to Joint Finance earlier this summer. We've heard that. How have those conversations been going?
This summer's been a little slow in conversations, but I know staff have been working with them, and we're very hopeful that when they come in for this this special session, that we'll actually be able to get something accomplished.
Governor, this past week on Friday, the news of the bill against the Supreme Court took administrative powers for a new committee that it created, taking those powers away from the Chief Justice. Do you support that decision?
I'm not in a position to support it or oppose it. It's a different part of our state's leadership, judicial part of our state, and doing that or not doing that is not something I'm going to weigh in on. What I do believe is, I think at some point in time, this will all be over, and they're going to be doing their work just like they always have.
Have Republicans in the Speaker box indicated that they're open to these proposals since they rejected them in the past?
Well, we're going to continue to work with them. Hopefully, we'll find some common ground so that we can actually accomplish something.
Last question. Governor Evers, Attorney General Josh Collins yesterday asked a judge to rule on the abortion lawsuit. How quickly do you want this to get to the state's Supreme Court?
What I want is the very first judge to finalize her decision. She made it clear what it's going to be. For us to move forward as a state, we need to have a response from her, and I'm sure she will. I don't think this is a stalling tactic on her part. Don't know that, but I'm guessing that's not the case given her preliminary decision. So hopefully we'll get that in the very near future and we can move forward.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good job. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you all.
News 3 Now is always on.
Get the Channel 3000 app, activate the push alerts, and we will send you breaking news, traffic, and weather alerts as it happens.
The Channel 3000 app. Get it now.
Powered by News 3 Now.